Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea Necchiarico, and today I'd like to share more of the information I received from the 25th dimension in my last QHHT session. And before we move forward, I'd like to ask you to please like this video, give it a thumbs up if you could. It really helps me make more videos. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And do leave me a comment because I read all of them and I'm very, very curious to see if the stuff resonates with you. I really want to put this out because I do think that it explains a lot of what is happening in the world, and the 25th always comes through with a lot of compassion and also sense of humor. So I do hope it resonates, but I would like to hear from you one way or the other because I'm really curious to see where everybody's at. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to be reading from the transcript of my session. And when I refer to Carolyn, she is my hypnotist. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking obviously while I'm under hypnosis, and therefore the messages come from the 25th dimension. All right, Carolyn, our number sequences assign me. Yeah, they're assigned that we're all connected, and that is the music of the universe, right? Numbers are music. I never thought of it that way. I thought it was very cool. Carolyn, who actually sends them? Me. They're out there. We live in a soup of music. They're not being sent by anybody. You just connect to the reality, right? Behind the matrix. Carolyn, oh, amazing. So we actually grasp those that maybe we need at the time. Is that how that happens? Me. You know, we just may be in a moment of connection, or we left an empty spot, a split second of emptiness in our mind, where we were able to connect and actually see beyond the matrix. The matrix breaks down in front of our eyes all the time. We just pretend to either forget or to not notice. Carolyn, very interesting. You told us that we used to build buildings from thought. What was the purpose of these buildings, like the pyramids, for example, or the cathedrals? Me. Just to show that we could do anything. Carolyn, were they built to provide free energy or were used as communal gardens? Me. They were just proof that we could do anything. We didn't even need energy. We produced everything from thought if we tapped in. I'm referring here to this one series of videos I've watched by, I think his name was You Are Anon. And it was very interesting. And basically he was looking at all these buildings that have the first floor of the building under mud. And he showed photos of cities that were completely empty, even though these cities would have housed millions of people. And one of the things he talks about is he thinks that these cathedrals, these gorgeous buildings, were being used to provide free energy, that kind of thing. And again, we're speculating based on clues, right? We don't know. So he was asking questions. He wasn't saying this is what was happening. So I was curious, and that's why I asked. And I said, no, we didn't need free energy. I mean, free energy was available. We didn't need to create it. And so we really just did that because we thought they were pretty. We were like, oh, we can do this. Let's do it, which totally makes sense. I love it. Carolyn, and so are they portals? Me. Some of them used to be used as portals, like some of the pyramids, for example, but we didn't need them to look that way, or we didn't need to do that. We were just having fun. Carolyn, we just like the way they looked? Me, exactly. We didn't need cathedrals. We didn't need anything. And certainly they were not cathedrals at the time. We just thought they were beautiful. Carolyn, oh, lovely. As essence, do we choose where we reincarnate and when? Me. Yeah, we choose everything. Carolyn, are there limits to our choices? Me. Not really. I mean, you can go back to the 25th if you don't want to hang out, don't want to play. I mean, you can, there's no limit. Carolyn. So I think the question might be, if I'm understanding Clea, are there limits to the number of choices we may have to a planet or off planet? Me. Yes, there are planets where Unless you incarnate with the intention of having a certain awareness level, you will not be allowed to go to certain planets. It's not that you will not be allowed. You've already decided, you've basically chosen that you're not going to go to certain planets. When we incarnate on this planet, for example, we already know we're not going to travel to other planets in normal circumstances. Of course, this year, this is going to change. But in the past, we already agreed that we weren't going to have contact with aliens if we were going to be here. So if you incarnate on a different planet, you're making different choices because they travel through space. So you could have hung out on different planets. If you go to New Earth, in order to be on New Earth, you have to have a certain level of consciousness, or you have to be willing to do certain work because you're incarnated, okay? When you are in between incarnations, you can choose to show up any way you want. We go back to what we said earlier about forgetting certain things so that it fits in with the story the way you want to experience it. So, are there limitations? No. Are there rules once you come in at a certain part of the game or in a certain game board? Yes. Carolyn, understood. You told us that all 3D planets have some form of slavery system. It seems that all 3D board games lean towards the dark. Why? Me laughing. They were laughing here as they were answering. What happens is the dark is really, really good at playing. Apparently, as the light, we think that we have to be a certain way. So we give ourselves a lot of limitations. So in a way, it's actually fun because limitations is the name of the game. Limitations is what makes you believe more that you are in a reality that's not real, right? It's by limitations that we test, what we're experiencing here. But at the same time, when it comes to coming up with rules, the light doesn't really, it's just not as effective. And this has happened quite a few times. In 3D, the dark is just better because they're all about let's dominate, let's control, let's limit. And this is what we're here to do in 3D in many ways, is limit. Except, of course, they take it too much to the extreme and the light becomes very ineffectual. But this is why this happens. And the reason they're saying it's too much to the extreme is because if the light becomes ineffectual, one, you're limiting free will for people. So we don't have the ability to choose between light and dark because the light becomes concentrated in small pockets, basically, of reality. And secondly, because here we cannot recalibrate anymore. The game has been in a vicious cycle of getting darker and darker, which is why we now have to take all of this down. And this is not a success for us in the sense that we have not been able to recalibrate, we've not been able to salvage this game board. And we put so much work into this that nobody's moving on or taking this down with a light heart saying, oh, okay, we're just moving on. Of course, we're moving on and we're all going to be happier. But again, ideally, we wouldn't have had to destroy the board. Carolyn, was there ever a successful 3D experiment where the balance was not lost? And what would a balanced 3D way of life look like? The reason I asked this question, because these questions are questions I've written down for Carolyn to ask, is because in one of the previous transmissions from the 25th dimension, they were saying that basically all other 3D planets, and there aren't that many in the multiverse, but they all have some form of slavery. Now, we're the only planet here who is enslaved to money, first and foremost, whereas other 3D planets are mostly enslaved to or by artificial intelligence. So my question here was, has there ever been a 3D planet that actually has gotten it right? Me. The balance. There are several degrees to which you can lose balance. It's okay. It's never 50-50. It is okay for a place to be a little bit out of balance. And normally the lack of balance comes right before you're ready to recalibrate to a higher level of awareness, again, within the matrix rules. So it's not a problem. The lack of balance happens on other planets as well, in much higher consciousness, much higher dimensions. So that's okay. The problem here, which has also happened on other planets, is that it was too much unbalanced to where it became too restrictive, the game. and you couldn't choose anymore. Like here, the problem with money, or which money has introduced, is that a lot of people cannot choose anymore. So now we don't have the full gamut of choices in front of us, and we're tired of this. So is there a problem with lack of balance? No. There's a problem with extreme lack of balance and extreme darkness, because then what does that mean? What does this signify when you have huge darkness? It means that we are isolating or expressing, distancing ourselves from darkness. This is really what is happening. So darkness started like a small ball, and all of a sudden becomes a huge ball, because we're all pretending the darkness is over there and we're all love and light. I know this expression is very near and dear to the hearts of many people who think they're spiritual. They want to be spiritual to talk about love and light. There is no such thing. We are everything. We're not just love and light. We are everything. Until we realize that, we'll always have this imbalance. And this is what tends to happen in a lot of different places. It's just wanting to distance yourself from something that you have judged. It's not true, but you have judged as being different from you and therefore wrong. Because that's the other thing. You can judge something as being different. You're wrong, but you could do that. But the fact that you believe that you're better than this other thing is what causes the darkness to accumulate and to become overwhelming. We've not been able to reabsorb it, because the bigger this darkness becomes, the more we feel, oh my God, that's horrible. I want nothing to do with this. So you see, it's a vicious circle. So this happens a lot in 3D, on 3D planets, because again, we have manifested things so we can see them separate from us. And what ends up happening when you see something is separate from you, you start judging yourself by the difference and say, oh no, I'm better than that. And this is how the cycle, the vicious cycle, grows. Other planets who are in higher dimensions tend not to do this. They realize we are one with everything, and therefore they never get to that extreme. They just rebalance themselves. Right, their abilities to reflect and look inward is what Carolyn said, me, and recalibrate. I think this is so powerful. I'm just gonna end this video here. For background on this concept of how we manifest things here on this planet, and how we manifest, how we basically got into the point where everything is so unbalanced, the worse, the dark. You might want to check some of the my previous videos. There's one specifically about polarity on New Earth, where it talks about how we have this ball. We'll be playing with this ball of energy inside of us, because the whole point is that we have to accept ourselves and realize we all have dark and light inside ourselves. What we do in 3D reality is that we isolate these things so we can see them more clearly, because they're outside of us, but by isolating them, we think they are separate, because of course this is the game we play in 3D planets, the idea of separation. And because we see it as separate, now we judge it as negative, we judge it as bad. We basically want to be all light ourselves, or pretend that we are all light. And by doing this, we relegate some people to be of the dark. So the separation and this judging is increasing the darkness here. So it's actually come back to bite us. And it's made things worse. So this is a very interesting concept that, again, we're moving on from this. But for the time being, this is what we have experienced and what we're experiencing now. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and take care. Bye-bye.